The first rule of surviving an alien court was simple: never show weakness. The second rule was even more important: never embarrass a war hero. Unfortunately, Captain Elias Ward had broken both rules the moment he walked into the throne chamber of the Zalrith Empire, the Court of Spears. The chamber was enormous. Tall, blade-like pillars rose toward a domed ceiling carved from black stone, each one etched with glowing alien script. Between them stood rows of armored guards, 8-foot-tall warriors with segmented armor and long ceremonial spears. The Zalrith were not a friendly species. They were conquerors, warriors, and they hated humans. At least, most of them did. Captain Ward walked slowly down the central aisle, flanked by 2 armored escorts. Every step echoed across the silent hall. At the far end sat the throne, and beside it stood General Karen Baleth. Even after 6 years, Elias recognized her instantly. She was taller than most of her kind, her armor polished silver and black. Her skin held the faint metallic sheen typical of the Zalrith, and 2 curved horn-like crests framed her head like a crown. Her eyes, bright amber, were cold as they watched him approach. He had imagined this moment 1,000 times. But not like this. Not in chains. The guards forced him to stop in the center of the chamber. A murmur rippled through the gathered nobles. A human. Prisoner. Spy. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. Captain Elias Ward, the translator implant in Elias's ear, interpreted. Former officer of the Terran Defense Fleet. The Emperor's gaze hardened. You stand accused of trespassing within Zalrith space. Elias said nothing, because he knew what was coming. General Karen stepped forward, and when she spoke, her voice carried through the entire chamber. Your Majesty, she said calmly, I request permission to question the prisoner. The Emperor nodded. Granted. Karen turned slowly toward Elias and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator about to play with its prey. Public humiliation. Well, she said loudly, pacing slowly around him. I must admit, this is disappointing. The court leaned forward with interest. Karen tilted her head, examining him like a specimen. I had heard rumors that humans were resilient creatures. She stopped in front of him. But this one, she said, gesturing dismissively. This one looks fragile. A few nobles chuckled. Elias kept his face calm. Inside, something twisted painfully in his chest. Because the last time he had seen Karen Baleth, she had been bleeding out in his arms. And she had looked at him very differently. Karen circled him again. Tell me, human, she continued, her voice mocking. Did your species send you here hoping to negotiate? Elias stayed silent. She leaned closer. Or were you foolish enough to believe we would welcome you? Laughter echoed through the chamber. Karen raised a hand dramatically. Behold, she announced to the court, the fearless Terran captain. Her eyes flashed with amusement. Reduced to a silent prisoner. More laughter. One noble leaned toward another. Pathetic. Another scoffed. Humans are weak creatures. Karen stepped back, clearly enjoying the spectacle. Perhaps, she said casually, we should send him home in pieces. The room erupted with cruel amusement. Elias felt something break inside him. Not anger, not pride, something deeper. 6 years of silence. 6 years of believing she was gone. He looked up and spoke. Quietly. I missed you. The words were simple, but the effect was catastrophic. Silence. The entire chamber froze. The laughter died instantly. Karen stopped moving. Slowly, very slowly. She turned toward him. The mocking smile had vanished. What? she said carefully. Did you just say? Elias met her eyes. And for the first time since entering the chamber, the mask fell away. I said, he repeated softly, I missed you. A ripple of confusion moved through the court. Karen's expression hardened. You presume familiarity with me? Her voice was sharp now. Cold. Professional. But Elias saw something flicker behind her eyes. Fear. Or maybe recognition. He shook his head slightly. You really don't remember? Her jaw tightened. I have fought hundreds of humans. Not like that, Elias said quietly. The court watched with growing fascination. Karen's tendons in her neck tightened. You will address the court with respect, human. Elias didn't break eye contact. 6 years ago, he said. Battle of the Karsus Nebula. Something changed in her posture. A barely noticeable shift. But Elias saw it. You were commanding the Zaureth's 7th Fleet. Her fingers curled slightly. You boarded a Terran cruiser during the battle. Now the court was completely silent. Elias's voice softened. You remember what happened next? Karen's breathing slowed. Dangerously. Continue, she said quietly. The battle. The cruiser was already dying, Elias said. Your boarding team was trapped when the reactor overloaded. The memories flooded back. Smoke. Fire. Screaming alarms. You were injured, he continued. Badly. He swallowed. Your soldiers were dead. Karen didn't move. You were the only one left. A noble scoffed. Zaureth warriors do not fall so easily. Elias ignored him. You tried to keep fighting. He smiled faintly, even with a broken arm. That got a reaction. Karen's eyes widened slightly. You remember now, Elias said softly. The court watched in stunned silence. You stabbed me, Elias added. Twice. A few nobles laughed nervously. Karen didn't. Then, Elias continued. The reactor alarm started. Her breathing changed. You realized the ship was about to explode. Elias's voice dropped to a whisper. And instead of killing me, he paused. You collapsed. For a moment, Karen looked like stone. Then Elias said the words that shattered her composure. I carried you to an escape pod. Her eyes widened. Shock. Real shock. You were barely conscious, Elias continued. You grabbed my armor and said something. The entire court leaned forward. What? Karen whispered. Elias smiled sadly. You said. He looked directly at her. Do not let me die like this. Her voice broke. Just slightly. Recognition. The chamber was so quiet that Elias could hear the faint hum of the energy shields. Karen stared at him. No, she said softly. That is impossible. Elias shrugged slightly. You passed out 5 seconds later. He lifted his hands slightly, chains clinking. I thought you died when the cruiser exploded. The Emperor leaned forward. You claim, he said slowly, that you saved a Zaureth general? Elias didn't look away from Karen. I didn't save a general. He paused. I saved a soldier. Karen's amber eyes trembled. You placed me in the pod, she said slowly, then pushed it into space. Elias nodded. And you stayed behind. I had another pod, he said. She shook her head. No, she whispered. The ship detonated before any other pod launched. The realization spread through the court. Karen took a step closer. How? She asked quietly. Did you survive? Elias shrugged. I got lucky. She stared at him. You were the human. The whisper carried across the chamber. The one who carried an enemy to safety. The court erupted into murmurs. That story was real. The unknown rescuer? Karen's voice trembled slightly. For 6 years, she said quietly, I believed that human died. Elias smiled faintly.
Yeah.
So did I. The truth. The emperor raised a hand, silencing the court. General Karen, he said. Is this story true? She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes remained locked on Elias. Finally, she spoke. Yes. Gasps spread through the chamber. The human she speaks of saved your life? The emperor asked. Yes. And this prisoner claims to be that human? Karen took another step closer. She studied Elias carefully. The scar above his left eyebrow. The faint burn mark along his jaw. Recognition flooded her face. It is him, she said quietly. Shock rippled through the nobles. One warrior protested. He is still human. Karen turned slowly. And the single word silenced the room. She faced the throne again. This human saved a Zalrith commander during battle. Her voice grew stronger. He could have left me to die. She glanced at Elias again. But he did not. The emperor leaned back. That creates an interesting dilemma. One noble growled. He is still an enemy. Karen's eyes flashed.
No.
The word cut through the chamber like a blade. He is a warrior. Silence followed. And in Zalrith culture, that meant everything. After the court, later that night, the throne chamber was empty, except for two figures standing near the massive observation window. Elias leaned against the railing. You didn't have to defend me like that, he said. Karen stood beside him. The court respects strength, she replied. You demonstrated it. Elias chuckled softly. You mocked me pretty hard first. Her tendrils twitched slightly, a Zalrith equivalent of embarrassment. I did not recognize you. You stabbed me twice, he reminded her. That was a battlefield. She hesitated. Also, she admitted quietly, I was trying to provoke you. He raised an eyebrow. Why? She looked away. To see if you were the same human. Elias blinked. You suspected? When you entered the chamber, she said, something felt familiar. She studied him again. You are older. 6 years will do that. And weaker. He laughed. Wow. She tilted her head slightly, but still reckless. Elias smiled. Some things don't change. They stood in silence for a moment. Finally, Karen spoke softly. For 6 years, she said, I carried the memory of the human who saved me. Elias looked at her. I thought I owed him a debt that could never be repaid. He shrugged. You don't owe me anything. She shook her head. You are wrong. Her voice softened. I owe you my life. Elias smiled gently. Then I guess we're even. She frowned slightly. How? You stabbed me twice. For the first time since he had known her, General Karen Valeth laughed. A real laugh. And somewhere in the depths of the Zalrith Empire, the story of the human who saved a general began to spread. Not as a tale of weakness, but as something far more dangerous. Respect.